All right, guys, so starting at number 32, we have the Carolina Panthers, the only single win team in the league. Really, really disappointing game last week. I mean, they had an opportunity to win it. I believe they were up 10-7 at one point, and they just couldn't bring it in. They couldn't finish it. Very unfortunate, but, I noticed in this game and in a few games throughout the season and quite a few plays, Bryce Young is kind of throwing passes and trying to throw a pass into a window that he isn't necessarily capable of. Now, I'm not saying that in a way where Bryce Young doesn't have good arm talent. He has very good arm talent. It's very good. He has an arm, but he doesn't have a Josh Allen type of arm. So he kind of has to realize that he cannot make some of these throws. You're just not going to get the ball there in time. And I'm realizing that, that's something that he's going to have to learn and that he's going to have to adjust with and adjust through as he grows and as he develops. But yeah, the Panthers down here at number 32, the only one-win team in the NFL. Then, of course, you have the only two-win team in the NFL, the New England Patriots, at number 31. I mean, 3 games in a row, they allowed 10 points or less. They're 0-3 in those games. Every other team this season that have allowed 10 points or less, they are 58-0. They have won every other game in which they have allowed a team has allowed their opponent to 10 or less points. They have won every single one of those games, and the Patriots have 3 of those losses in the last 3 weeks. So it's pretty tough, and it is what it is. The offense is horrible. Bill Belichick, he may very well be out of the door after this year. We'll see what goes on. Maybe he'll stay one more year, but I doubt it at this point. But yeah, the Patriots down here at number 31. I have a really good defense. I feel really bad for the defense. And then, I think the Patriots and the Jets are actually very similar football teams. They both have really strong defenses, really good defenses. But both of them, their offense is horrible. They're some of the worst offenses that we've ever seen in the Patriots and the Jets. And yeah, both of those teams are very similar. They both have very good defenses, and I'm impressed with the Patriots defense. I'm impressed with the Jets defense. That's the only reason why they have been in games this season. But their offenses, they can do absolutely nothing. They suck. Their offenses suck, flat out. Number 29, you have the Washington Commanders moving down 4 spots after getting their rear ends beaten in by the Miami Dolphins, which the Dolphins should have beaten them. I knew it was going to be a tough game for the Commanders going into it, but I do feel like they should have been able to get a little more offense going. I was very disappointed in that aspect of the game, even though, the Dolphins defense has been ranked one of the best defenses the last couple of weeks, if not number one. I think they are actually ranked number one in the past couple of weeks, doing a very good job against the Commanders. And, that's not easy to do. The Commanders have a good football team. Well, I think they have some really explosive pieces on offense, and they can be explosive on offense. I like what I've seen from Sam Howell this season so far. You have Dotson, you have McLaurin, you have Curtis Samuel. It's just really the offensive line is really bad. Sam Howell, he's been sacked. I think he's probably been sacked over 60 times so far this season. He's constantly getting hit all day long, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But their defense, man, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, why are you gonna? Like, you have Tyreek on the field, you're calling cover 1. It's like, it's like the first time they're ever seeing Tyreek Hill play. Like, you can't put a safety on him in the slot and expect it to go good for you. No, you're calling man coverage. You have a safety in the slot against Tyreek Hill. Like, why? Where's the logic there? It just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, Commanders moved down 4 spots. Just a pathetic performance. I really thought we would have seen more from the offense, but it's unfortunate. It is what it is. Move on to next week. Number 28, you have the New York Giants move up 1 spot. They're kind of like the complete opposite of the Commanders. Their offense sucks. They don't really have any explosive element to the offense unless you have Saquon Barkley getting going. But really, the offense line is so bad, he can't run anywhere. And, the offense line is so bad, no one else can really do anything. The quarterback doesn't have time to survey the field, to look through the field. And, the wide receivers don't have any time to get open. And on top of that, the receivers don't get open. So yeah, it's been a really tough go for the Giants and the Commanders so far this season. They're both kind of really opposites because the Giants' defense has actually been really impressive. They've been very good. So it is what it is. 2 NFC East teams all the way down here. They're kind of like polar opposites of each other, but it is what it is. So number 27, Raiders staying put. They're just off the bye week, so didn't really feel the need to move them around, but they do have a good game coming up against the Vikings soon here. So, and yeah, 26, you have the Tennessee Titans Really disappointing loss versus the Colts there. I mean, you were up 10 points at one point. You run the ball well. Special teams really killed you. 2 block punts. You lost your punter, Ryan Stonehouse, who has been one of the better punters in the league. You really had the Colts beat you downfield with Alec Pierce. He had a couple big plays. Gardner Minshew really threw all over them a little bit. And then, Will Levis, he looked okay. I mean, I think I think as time goes on, he's going to continue to look better. But, just a little small mistakes here and there. And especially that special teams really killing the Titans there. But I didn't really feel a need to move them down, to move them up. It is what it is. Didn't expect them to be a very good, I didn't think they were going to be a very good team this year. And due to the expectations, didn't feel the need to move them anywhere, even from week to week. So next up, you have the Cardinals moving up 5 spots after beating a pretty hot Pittsburgh Steelers team. They were winning a couple games in a row there. Been very impressed. They've been, the Cardinals are one of those teams that are going to be sneaky. Their defense, they get a lot of sacks, but their pressure rate isn't really there. It's kind of weird. But they get a lot of sacks, and, they will get after the quarterback. And I didn't expect their defense to play as well as it did. Now, was it the Steelers, offense coming back down to earth after after the 1 week of Matt Canada gone, then kind of back to what it was before. Kenny Pickett went out, but give the props to the Cardinals defense. They played a really good game. They got after the quarterback, and their offensive line is pretty tough, so they're gonna have to get that offensive line fixed, of course. But of course, going to get going up against T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, it's going to be a rough go for any team really. But yeah, the Cardinals moving up 5 spots. I mean, I felt it was worth it. I felt it was needed to move them up as much as they did, because that's just how bad that bottom row of teams are. You have the Panthers, the Patriots, Jets, Commanders, Giants. I think those are all of those teams. The bottom 5 teams there are in a category of their own. Like, they're just horrible. They just suck. And then you have 27, 26, 25, 24. I feel like all those teams, they're okay football teams. They're sneaky, but they're not really going to do anything special. They are just, they're sneaky football teams. As you go on the list, of course, 24, you have the Bears. They're on the bye. Didn't feel the need to move them. The Saints moved down 2 spots after, a loss to the Lions, in which, I was impressed. They gave themselves an opportunity to win that game, but Derek Carr, man, in the red zone, he is I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback or, an offense in general be this bad in the red zone. The Saints are horrible in the red zone, and Derek Carr has never been good in the red zone, and I think a lot of it has to do with his timing, his footwork. He takes too many hitches. I'm not really a fan of Derek Carr. His timing just isn't really isn't really there. You see a lot of times throughout the season, his footwork isn't there. Isn't really there. When you take a bit of a drop back there, you're gonna throw it deep to Chris Olave or someone like that. Instead of taking 1 hitch and a step up, he takes 2 hitches and 2 steps ups, and it doesn't really. And then the timing's off. If you take 1 hitch and try and let that ball meet him down the field, then voila, awesome. But a lot of times he takes the extra step, the extra hitch, and then the ball's a little late and it's intercepted, it's underthrown, and it's just a disaster. I mean, they need someone else. Derek Carr, he's not the answer. Honestly, I think they're better off with Jameis Winston starting, to be honest with you. Carr is just not really it, man. And, the Saints are just a really weird team. You look on paper and you're like, damn, okay, they have a good football team. They have some nice pieces there, but they just can't translate to the field. If they can start translating to the field, man, this could be a really darn good football team, but they just can't translate it to the field, and that's definitely in coaching. That's definitely on, your quarterback not having his timing down, and, the defense have their on and off week. But you did play a really good Lions team, so yeah, it was really nice to see them try and come back and try and give themselves an opportunity, but couldn't put it away. Then you have another NFC North another NFC South team here picking up a win against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, you should have beat them, and at one point in this game was looking a little like, whoa, are the Bucs really going to lose to the Panthers here? But no, to start the second half, Baker Mayfield hits Mike Evans on a huge play. What was it, a 76-yard play, and it was really what the Bucs needed to propel them ahead. The Panthers, so they're moving up 1 spot. Number 21, you have the Seahawks moving up 1 spot as well. So the Seahawks are a team. It's kind of weird to move a team up after a loss, but I was really impressed with the with their offense. And, I think this is a team that can move up the power rankings a bit. I do think they are a little bit low here, but I just didn't feel the need to move them up anymore. It didn't really make any sense to move the Steelers down anymore. Didn't really make sense to move the Chargers down anymore, even though they won. Didn't move them down because that's kind of a crappy game you put up against the Patriots that are only winning 6-0. Now, it was a lot of weather, but a lot of missed opportunities with, receivers dropping the ball and Quentin Johnson dropping the ball, and, the offensive line is just not there. But back to the Seahawks here, I mean, if they can continue this, if they could keep on going and, figure out what they really did against the Cowboys there and keep it going, I think that the Seahawks team can find their groove again and get back to their winning ways. But I feel like they've been very watery. They've been very choppy. They haven't really been that great of a football team that stretch, even though their record is pretty good and, they're not really out of the playoff picture. But I don't always just go by the record and that stuff. I kind of go, ahead of, this team is winning, or they're struggling to win. It's an interesting football team. They got beat up pretty good by the Niners, and another big matchup by the Niners here this week. So can they beat the Niners? The Niners are just a very dominant football team. I think, I know they pass the visual test. They pass all the tests, and the Niners being the best team in football. So we'll see what the Seahawks can do this weekend. It can be a big factor in where I move them this week. I might not move them down if they keep it close. They might just stay put. If they keep it close, they might even move up. We'll see. There are rare instances where it's plausible, or it's understandable to move a team up for losing. They put up a really good game against the Cowboys, and the Chargers moving down 2 spots. That's on the other end of the scale of you winning, and then it's rare for me to move you down when you're winning. But I mean, you only put up 6-0 on one of the worst teams in the NFL. Now you won, yeah, so you can't really penalize them for it, but still, there's just some other teams that are moving up that should be above them. And then number 20, you have the Steelers. The Steelers are one of those teams, man. If you look at the Steelers, this has been a team that has barely won games. Their defense keeps them in the games. And I do want to talk about the defenses for a minute here. I feel like defenses are gaining some momentum, and they're figuring something out this year, which we haven't seen the defense do this in years. It's just every single year, defenses were getting worse. They're getting bad. They're getting, but it feels like this year defenses have something figured out, and it's been a good year for defense, which we haven't seen in years. But yeah, the Steelers, and that's kind of how the Steelers are winning. But when you get into the playoffs, when you play some of these better teams that are all around better teams that are going to be able to run the football against you, they're going to be able to put up some points against you. Is the offense going to be able to keep up? No. And it's not really, it's not really a winning formula to barely be winning games. And then you just when you keep games close all the time, you could beat anybody, yeah, but then you could lose anyone. Like just happened this weekend to the Cardinals. Really took a bad loss to the Cardinals this weekend. I was starting to look at the Steelers like, okay, Matt Canada's gone. Kenny Pickett looks like he stepped it up. Finally, that Matt Canada's gone, but now Pickett's hurt. You have Mitch. I mean, is it really that much worse? I mean, it is what it is. The Steelers moving down 8 spots after a really disappointing, really bad loss to the Cardinals there. I mean, they're looking good. They're getting it going a little bit here and there, but they just, come on, man. You have to, win that game. That's a game you have to win. It's a tight race in the AFC too, in the AFC playoff picture. So you lose that game, and it definitely hurts a little bit, but Steelers should be okay moving forward. We'll see if they can get the offense going and stop relying on the defense, but I don't think too much is going to change because the offensive line isn't great. They're inconsistent running the football. And, they played one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I mean, I don't understand why you couldn't carry the success over from the previous week and, you get the job done versus the Cardinals. I don't really understand it, but yeah, they're moving down 8 spots because I was not impressed with them at all. I was really, really disappointed, but number 19, the Chargers moved down 2 spots, so I do think this is a little harsh moving them down 2 spots for winning. But I mean, when you're playing a team like the Patriots, and you're making horrible coaching decisions. I feel like in the beginning of the game, you're running on 3rd and short, on 3rd and medium, like almost every time, and it's just like, come on, man, like throw the football, you're putting the ball in the hands of your running back, great running back, and you have a decent offensive line, yeah, but would you rather put a third and short in your running back's hands or Justin Herbert's hands, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, take your pick. But if you ask me, I'm gonna put the ball in Justin Herbert's hands and just have him throw a short little pass to Austin Eckler and get him open. But I feel like in the beginning of the game they're calling. I'm just not a fan of the coaching. Brandon Staley, he needs to be fired. He needs to be run out of town already. Don't ever want to see him back being a head coach because he's absolutely ruining what the Chargers have in Justin Herbert. He's not really, it's kind of wasting him, not really giving him that opportunity with how bad that head coach is. So, yeah, they're moving down 2 spots. They did beat the Patriots. They did win, but I felt like there were just some other teams here that I couldn't really move down too far because they had a bye week like the Vikings or, the Falcons here. Couldn't really move them down because they won. So, and then, it kind of goes against the grain there when I'm just saying for the Falcons, but who do the Falcons beat? Who do the Jets beat? It's fair, but it's choppy waters. I just feel like the teams ahead of the Chargers right now that I have ahead of them are better. I don't, that's just what it came down to. So the Falcons sticking at number 18. Fortunate to win that football game. He had a couple big plays late in that game. Got it figured out. And, it is what it is. It was a boring game. Don't really have too much of an offense rolling here. Falcons, I don't really have too much. I really don't have too much else to say for them. Number 17, Vikings moved on 2 spots coming off the bye. Colts, number 16, moving up 3 spots. So the Colts, man, they have been finding ways to win games. They're not a great football team. They're not a really good football team, but they are very well coached. They're playing well in the biggest moments, and they're getting and they're executing in the biggest moments on offense and defense, and that's why they're winning games here. They're probably a playoff team because you look at the remaining schedule. They have the Steelers, they have the Bengals, they have some very winnable games, and they have the Raiders. They should be able to make the playoffs. But we will see. If they do make the playoffs, I don't see them winning a game in the playoffs. It's just the team. They're a team that's winning games, and let's not forget they beaten the Patriots, the Panthers. They haven't beaten a great football team. They beat the Bucs and the Titans, which the Bucs and the Titans are a step up from the Panthers and the Patriots. But as you see, they're 22-26 in the Bucs and the Titans, so it's not really like they're beating great football teams. But for a team that I didn't think was going to be this good this year, winning games are 7-5. They're right in the thick of the AFC playoff race, so. And give them their props where it's due. So Colts move up 3 spots. Number 15, Cleveland Browns moved on 4 spots after a disappointing loss to the Rams. I mean, they kept it close majority of the game there, but you really couldn't. You couldn't really run the football. Joe Flacco looked good at moments in this game. Looked like his arm was looking all right, but kind of overthrowing it and just heaving in, and it is what it is. Defense can only get you so far, and the Rams, they're an explosive football team. They just put up 36 points on the Browns' defense, which, the defenses get tired after a while of, and get frustrated after, the offense not really getting too much done, but really the Browns couldn't really get the run game going. The defense didn't really have a day, and they just played a really explosive offense. They did keep it close in that game, but really couldn't finish it off, and, the game was closer than the score shows, but ultimately you lose. You're moved down 4 spots. Bills staying at number 14. They're coming off the bye. Have a pretty rough schedule to end out the season, so we'll see if the Bills can make a push here late in the season. They have the Chiefs. I think they should beat the Chiefs. You have the Cowboys. That'll be a tough one. The Chargers. You should beat the Chargers, the Patriots, and Dolphins. So it's definitely not the easiest of stretches. Having the Cowboys and the Chiefs, and you better beat the Patriots the second time around because you lost them the first time. You'll let them score, 29 points? It's yikes. You're playing the Chargers. You should beat the Chargers, but that is a sneaky game. That is a sneaky game because the Chargers, they're not a bad football team. Well, they're very poorly coached. That is what's wrong with the Chargers. The Bills and the Dolphins last week, that's going to be a big game, I think. I think the Dolphins will probably have the division wrapped up by then, but we'll see. All right. 13, the Bengals, man. Jake Browning. That dude looked like a monster last night. That dude looked really good. I mean, what did he throw for 354 passing yards? He was killing it. Like, he was getting the ball out quick. He was, they did call a lot of screen plays, and you have some good receivers to throw to. I didn't really like the Jaguars' game plan. I mean, would they have won if Trevor Lawrence was him? You can't really say that because you never know what would have happened. But generally speaking, I would say that the Jaguars are still the better football team, but I don't really like the game plan that the Jaguars have for Jake Browning. I mean, I think they went into the game just calling all that man and trying to pressure him. They weren't really calling a lot of zone. They're just kind of like, calling a lot of man coverage. And I don't know why you're going to call all this man coverage. Even though the quarterback, going into this game, you're thinking, oh, it's a backup quarterback. Doesn't have that much experience. He's not going to be that good. He's not too much of a threat. Well, let's not forget about the threats that you have at receivers. You have Jamar Chase. You have Tyler Boyd. You have T. Higgins. You have some really good receivers, and you just kind of acting like they're not there. You kind of acting like that the quarterback can't even throw the football. So, but Jake Browning, man, wow, and I saw them get the run game going a little bit against one of the better run defenses in football. The defense did struggle a little bit, but it's not really a great defense to begin with. But all right, they beat the Jaguars, a very good football team. The Jaguars were a hot football team. You beat up on the Jaguars, and all right, you move up 3 spots to 13. The Packers moving up 8 spots to number 12. This is a team that I thought was down and out. Go back 3 or 4 weeks, and I'll tell you. And you asked me 3 or 4 weeks ago, will the Packers make the playoffs? I go, probably not. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and golly, the Packers are playing some good football. Mike LaFleur, I really liked how he got the misdirection going in this game. Feel like he called a really good game. Jordan Love has been on fire. He's been looking so good. Definitely not something that Bears and Vikings and Lions fans really want to see, but I mean, Jordan Love has looked really good. Feels like Romeo Doubs is, he's stepping on making plays. I like Jaden Reed. The offensive line is, a little better, and I like how they're getting that misdirection, or, how the offensive line is. I've been really impressed with this Packers team. I mean, the defense is only going to be getting healthier, and man, that Packers team, they're becoming sneaky. They're becoming sneaky. If Jordan Love can, that's 3 performances in a row now where Jordan Love is playing some darn good football. So, Packers moving up 8 spots. I mean, you just beat the Chiefs. Yeah, the Chiefs aren't really that explosive team that we're used to seeing. They're really not the team that we're used to seeing, but still, they beat the Chiefs. They beat a team with the best quarterback in the National Football League. Really impressive. Really impressive. Now, down the stretch, they don't have a difficult schedule either. They play the Giants, they play the Bucks, they play the Panthers, they play the Vikings, the Bears. All of those games are very winnable. Every single one. So, man, it's looking pretty good for the Packers right now. So that's why they moved up a whopping 8 spots. Congrats to the Packers. Congrats to Jordan Love. Let's see if they can keep it rolling. And did it against a really good passing defense, too. Chiefs have one of the best passing defenses in the NFL. Wow. All right, the Rams move up 2 spots to number 11. I mean, the Rams they're sneaky, too. I don't feel like anyone is talking about the Rams. I mean, just look at the Rams, and people are just like, yes, the Rams are not that good of a football team. I'm going to tell you to shut up, and I'm going to come over, and I'm going to really challenge you on that, because the Rams are explosive. This is a team, as long as they can stay healthy, you have Kupp, you have Puka, you have Matthew Stafford, one of the better quarterbacks in the league when healthy. The offensive lines, they're all right. I mean, it's not a great offensive line, but with them getting the running game, the emergence of Kyron Williams, they're such a darn explosive football team. The defenses are, they're about, they're like middle of the pack, but I mean, the Rams, man, they're looking pretty good, So, yeah, they're moving up 2 spots after a big, they just put up 36 points against one of the best passing defenses in the NFL. I mean, come on now, the Rams. Great game. Moving up 2 spots to number 11. Broncos moving down 2 spots. Their monstrous win streak ends against the Texans. C.J. Stroud comes to town and says, Nah. You're done. No more. So the Broncos moving down 2 spots, just He had an opportunity to win it. It did look like the Texans were going to blow them out of the water at one point. But the Broncos said, "Nuh-uh." They made it close. And, they moved on 2 spots because they still lost. Texans move up 1 spot. I mean, it was like, like I just said, it looked like they were going to blow the Broncos out of the water. It wasn't even going to be a close game. But then the Broncos, they ended up making it a close game. And C.J. Stroud missed a couple of throws in this game that he wouldn't normally miss. So I don't expect that to continue. But there were a couple passes in this game. There were a couple plays where just kind of like, just didn't throw a good pass. So, but we're up 1 spot to 9. So good. Number 8, one ahead of the Texans. You have the Jaguars, now the AFC South team. Moved down 1 spot. I mean, I don't get the game plan coming into this game. You call a lot of man coverage, a lot of, I don't really get what they're trying to do. I mean, I guess they're going in the game counting on Jake Browning just not being a good quarterback, but I mean, let's not forget the receivers that they have. They have Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins was healthy tonight. And you have Joe Mixon, who was running the ball on them pretty well. And they're supposed to be one of the better run defenses in the NFL, and they struggled to stop the run against the Bengals a little bit. So, yeah, Jake Browning really he looked incredible. Now let's talk about the big elephant in the room. It really sucks to see Trevor Lawrence go down. Jaguars looking good, man. They're looking so good. And I think the test came back this morning. That's a high ankle sprain. Oh, man. The Jaguars finally getting some momentum. They're finally like, they're on their way becoming, a hot football team once again. And fortunately, Trevor Lawrence, goes down. But C.J. Beathard is what it is. It looked like he kind of got hurt, too. He screwed up his arm a little bit. But, yeah, they're moving down 1 spot. It was a pretty bad loss to the Bengals. But I don't think that they should be moved down more than 1 spot because they've been a good football team. Lions move up 2 spots to 7. That game was a little too close for comfort. Did not think that game should have been that close. Don't really know what you're doing there. I mean, Jared Goff making a couple bad plays here and there, but when it mattered most on the stretch, he made a great throw under pressure. I think there were like 2 or 3 guys, all over him. Throwing it to Josh Reynolds, he catches it first down, the game's over. But still, the Lions have to find a way to get consistent here and find a way to put games away because they have not done it lately. They have not played consistent football. They have not really played great football. They've really tampered off since, it's been a couple weeks since the Lions have put together a dominating performance throughout an entire game. Now, the Saints, they have a really good football team on paper. I haven't really been able to translate it, but I feel like teams are starting to be, they're starting to be able to game plan for the Lions. They're starting to get something figured out, and yeah, so moves up 2 spots, but still disappointing outing considering you were up 21-0 at some point in the Saints. You're letting them crawl back into it. You can't do that. When you get into the playoffs and you play a team like the Eagles or the Niners, if you get a lead like that and you let one of them get back into the game, you're not going to win that football game. They're going to beat you. So you got to put together, even against the Bears a couple weeks ago or against the Packers as well. It feels like they've just have been completely outplayed in those games. And fortunately, they got away with the Bears one, but the Packers one they did not. So we'll see what the Lions can do down the stretch of the season here. They don't have a very difficult schedule, but we'll see what we get. Number 6, you have the Chiefs. They moved down 3 spots. I mean, they just don't have that explosiveness to them. They just don't have the X factor to them that they usually do, and that's kind of the issue with them. They don't really have the extra player. They don't really have that extra pizzazz to them. They don't have anything special to them. Patrick Mahomes, he's got that fire in him, but the Chiefs, this team just doesn't really have it in them this year, and it is what it is. I mean, you don't really have any receivers that can step up, or pass catchers that can go out and make a big play consistently. Rashee Rice had a good week a couple weeks ago, and, but now it's like, I don't understand why you don't run the football even more. I mean, you obviously have Pacheco and Patrick Mahomes making big plays, and the offensive line is really good, but you don't have anyone that can make plays in the passing game. All right, next 5 teams here. These are in my opinion, the obvious top 5 teams. These teams have separated themselves. They're They're the best football teams in the NFL. There's a reason why they're top 5, and I think this is where you go. There's a big jump from 6 to 5, and then so on and so on. So number 5, you have the Dolphins. They move up one spot. They have a nice weekend. Really dominated the Commanders. Wasn't even really close. I don't really know what the Commanders were doing on defense half the time, putting a safety in the slot on Tyreek Hill. Not much help over the top. It just didn't really make too much sense to me. That's not the kind of game plan you should have versus one of the most dangerous receivers in the game. And then Tua just throwing the ball up there is great anticipation. Just the ball is coming out of his hands before Tyreek is even close to where he needs to be to catch at the catch point. But very explosive offensively, beating up on some of these bad football teams. Or they've done that very well. Their defense has been really impressive. Because the Commanders have some explosive pieces on their offense, so it was impressive to see what they did. But hopefully, we have to see them beating some of these better teams here, though. They have to beat them. They haven't proven that they could beat that team yet. I do think if they do play the Chiefs again, that they would beat the Chiefs. I do think, but it is what it is. But so they move up one spot, number 5. Number 4, you have the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they beat the team that has a winning record, finally, and they put up a lot of points against, what 3 straight home games with 40+ points. And then this weekend, huge matchup between them and the Eagles. I mean, I think whoever wins that is going to take the lead in that division. But Dak Prescott is officially atop the MVP race, I believe. They've looked really good. I mean, the defense is going to have to get it figured out. They were attacking, the Seahawks were attacking DaRon Bland there a little bit. But, I mean, that's what's going to happen to an aggressive cornerback once in a while. He's going to be picked on. That's kind of what happened with Trayvon Diggs his second year. His first year or his second year, he had like 10 picks. And then next year, he does give up a lot of yards. And, teams target him because of that. But he also makes a lot of big plays. And that's kind of what we have gotten out of DaRon Bland this year so far. And, he's been a good corner, and, their defense, Dallas's defense, they're going to have to play a little better this weekend when they play the Eagles. The run defense is pretty good. It's all right. Their passing defense is going to definitely have to play better. You're playing A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith this weekend, and I do think Zacchaeus has stepped up and made a couple big plays here and there. But, Cowboys moving up one spot to 4. Big matchup between them and the Eagles this weekend. Winner gets the lead in the NFC East. Eagles moving down 2 spots, just a complete obliteration. They got dominated all 3 phases. Couldn't really run the ball. They couldn't play their game, and then Jalen Hurts couldn't really get the job done. And this is what kind of happens when you rely on the run game too much, and when the run game isn't really there, you're struggling to pass the football. But the offensive line struggled a little bit today. Well, not today, but offensive line struggled a little bit. The Niners have just been that team that has dominated football teams. The Eagles haven't really had that dominating performance this year. They didn't really, their most dominating grade this year from PFF is, their game grade is back in week 2 against the Vikings. Other than that, they haven't really been dominating football teams. And you see they kind of struggle against the Chiefs a little bit. They kind of struggled there against the Bills a little bit. And I think the Bills are going to make a run down the stretch of the season here, and I think the Bills are a much better football team than their record. But then, you were down 10 points to the Chiefs, to the Bills. And, like I said, if you're going to go down 10 points to the Niners, then, the Niners aren't going to let you come back. That's not a football team that's going to let that happen. Their offense, they're going to keep running. And the Niners ran the football really well against one of the better running defenses in the NFL. CMC, Brock Purdy, they're killing it. But, that's just something that the Eagles have to work on. I don't think they're definitely not as good as last year. They're a good football team. Their defensive line is actually ranked like 5th in the NFL or something. It's not like for 1 or 2 of what we used to. It's not like a top 2 or top 3 defensive line in terms of numbers and what they've gotten done. Hassan Reddick has played pretty well, but Jalen Carter's a beast, but the passing defense has been horrible. You really got to get something figured out with that passing defense, because you're gonna probably see Brock Purdy again, and if you don't get something figured out by then, the same thing is probably gonna happen. Number 2, Baltimore on the bye week. Didn't feel the need to move them. They have had some dominating games this season. I was thinking about putting the Eagles at 2, move the Ravens down to 3, but The Ravens have dominated football teams this year multiple times. They've dominated the Lions, the Jaguars. They've dominated football teams. They have put football teams away. Eagles have not. They have not. That's why I decided to keep the Ravens at 2, move the Eagles down 3 spots. I almost moved them down below the Cowboys, but I think the Cowboys got to beat them first and then move ahead of them. Number 1, San Francisco 49ers, man. They've dominated everyone. You know, they had that 3-game losing streak. Other than that, they've dominated everyone. Great football team. Absolutely phenomenal football team. Brock Purdy, MVP candidate. I'm so happy to see Brock Purdy playing the way he is, man. You know, he was one of the first players I ever actually studied, and I loved him. Loved Brock Purdy. He's a very good quarterback. And we're seeing it now. You know, when he got drafted to the Niners, I'm like, ugh, he's not really gonna get a chance. But man, he got a chance, and he is running with it. He's an MVP candidate. He's first in almost every major quarterback category. Brock Purdy is a monster. He's a great quarterback, awesome quarterback. And, you know, he may not be, it's another example of, you know, you can find talent anywhere in the draft. It doesn't have to be in the first round. It doesn't have to be in the second or even just trading for him. You know, you can find talent everywhere. Brock Purdy, Tom Brady, Kurt Warner, all these guys are examples of that. So, yeah, man. Good stuff for them. I appreciate you guys tuning in to our weekly power rankings, our weekly NFL power rankings, this time for week 4. So it's been a fun NFL season, man, and it's pretty, you know, depressing that it's already week 14. But it is what it is. We're going to enjoy it as much as we can. But that's all I got from you guys today. Thank you for tuning into the JDW Sports Talk Show, where your fans welcome. If you enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. This is the JDW Sports Talk Show. Signing off.